Welcome, everyone. This is the DFS Bum. All right, let's get into our Friday night showdown slate NBA here. We have a nice little spreadsheet here that is keeping track of all the stats, running all the way up to the finals here. So if you've not yet subscribed to the channel, please do so as we journey to the finals. So tonight, or tomorrow night, it's actually Thursday right now, it's halftime, the first game. It could be a special night. I've got one lineup. It's high as 27th, just a couple points out of first, and it's the only one. It's a totally unique lineup. So usually there's ties in these slates like this. So anyhow, let's see what happens with that. But not to get too off track. But all right, back to Friday night here. So coming in, we have in Fanduel, my three MVP candidates are going to be Jokic, James, and Davis. Jokic has been playing phenomenal, 52 points that last series, coming off a 71-point game. Before that, 62 points. LeBron has been averaging 57 overall for the playoffs, 56 points that last series. Davis, 52 overall. He coming off of about just under, he actually averaged under 50 points that last series. Probably more so that last game was under 30, so that's probably driving down his average there. And then from there, as I go down into my next spot on FanDuel, and for you folks that aren't familiar with FanDuel, there's point multipliers. It's not a salary multiplier, so I'm going to talk about FanDuel strategy and DraftKings a little bit differently here. But the second spot is first spot's 2 times multiplier, second spot's 1.5, and the third is 1.2. And then you have your two utility spots, just take their straight points. So now if we jump over to DraftKings, as far as MVP is considered there, what I've done is I've taken what their average have been for the playoffs versus their salary, because we're looking more for the value play to some degree at the MVP spot. Whereas on FanDuel, we're just really looking for the raw points that we can get. And we don't have a salary multiplier. And that's what's going to end up happening over there on DraftKings. It's going to take that salary and multiply that by 1.5. So if you sit there and look at it, in theory, James overall with his price tag, it's kind of funny, but really outside of Rondo, who's questionable, Rondo's got a phenomenal value. I mean, he's only 5,400 on DraftKings, and so you times that by time and a half, and then so what you're paying probably right around 8,000 or so. And I mean, hell, that's not all that much more than a lot of these other guys that, like, I mean, Harris and Kuzma, and the only guys above them would be like Murray, Davis, James, and Jokic. So anyhow, that would be the guy that I would see being, if he does play, given that he's so cheap, that right there is just tremendous value. He's just so damn cheap there. Now, if for some reason he's out, you could maybe get into Caruso. I do think probably MVP will be populated like with a lot of these top three guys, like it will be on FanDuel. But Caruso, I guess the idea is if Rondo is out, Caruso's minutes go up. He still was averaged 23 that last series, which was good to see, even though Rondo came in, didn't play the first round. And Caruso, that's funny, he averaged, it looks like he averaged 23 that first round as well. So anyhow, usually the rotation gets a little bit tighter this time of year. So if Rondo were to go out, yeah, maybe his minutes go up a little bit, and he's just so cheap. But then again, going back up into the top three guys, Davis at 10,800, he is the cheapest guy there. So you could definitely see him being a strong MVP candidate. All right, now getting back over here with FanDuel, and then I guess just with DraftKings, and from there, it's pretty much self-explanatory because there's no other, it's all utility spots from there. So you're just going to try to take as much value as you can and just try to get in those last spots there. So, all right, jumping back over with FanDuel, as I go down to that fourth spot, or the second spot, I will build my lineup to include Jamal Murray there. I don't think I'm going to put an MVP. It's not really a bad play from some degree if you want to go from a little bit something that's going to be more contrarian, more unique. because it's such a big player pool. In fact, I just saw it Fanduel Friday night. I think it's like 200,000 for first place. So that would be definitely a play, but I don't think I'm going to do that. I think there's enough other ways to potentially be unique. So again, I've got these top 3 guys in the MVP spot, and as I go down the All-Star spot, I'll grow that list to include Murray. And normally, I guess the last time I'd played, I think I threw, like when the Lakers had played, I threw Rondo into that spot as well. Of course, he's questionable, so probably won't really mess around with that. But then as I get down into my third spot, the pro spot, again, I'll still have those 4 players there. Rondo, assuming he does play, he'll be in that list. And this is often where I kind of say it's like, this is kind of where I feel that you end up winning this tournament as far as FanDuel is concerned, is who else is going to be, who's going to vacate that spot. And there's really not a lot of separation if we're looking at these players. Rondo, like I say, just had come in and averaged 31 points and just phenomenal. But then after that, I mean, just look at what we have here. Gary Harris, about 20 points overall for the playoffs. Kuzma, about 19 points. We dropped down to Morris, only 13 points. Even when he played 20 minutes that last series, 14 points. And they went up. I guess his minutes, he actually still played 17 minutes. Interesting, that first round, going way back. This seems like a lifetime ago. But, and I don't really know, he ended up starting there. Now that they're going with a more traditional team, I probably am looking at his minutes going back down to, and especially for the 9,500 on FanDuel, like, fuck that, man. If you're going to play him at 2,800 on DraftKings, that's not maybe all that bad, especially because that's so cheap. And I would probably think that he'll still go out and get some minutes there. I'm trying to think who they played back in that first round. It's been such a long time ago. Was it Portland, I think? Yeah. And so Portland had some big men. 2 big men, actually. So I don't know. But I don't really think he's not going to, I guess, unless, Rondo was hurt. But again, I just don't really see him starting. And like I say, the FanDuel price tag, that's pretty cheap. Pretty steep. Not the opposite of cheap. DraftKings, though, is cheap. Not all that bad there. And even there, look at it. It's like that, it's down to that 0.45 points per salary there, which it's pretty good value for this type of slate into there. So definitely in play as far as DraftKings is concerned. And then from there, like just going on to with all those other guys, like you had Porter Jr., who's about 22 points. So he's 9,000 on FanDuel, 8,400. So he's your mid-tier guy. He's a guy that'd be worthy of throwing into that spot. He can definitely have that game where he gets north of 30 or 35 even, something like that. And I could see in here just those top 2 spots being dominated so much with the salary that you can't fit in basically the top 5 guys there, or 4 guys there. So somebody that has like 30 points in that third spot could very well like be the highest possible salary that will fit in there. So that's something with Porter. Now Kuzma, I don't know. He did have that game where he was 26 points, and I guess that series before he had a couple games where he's in the mid 20s, like 23 and 24. But then he had like a 7-point game and like a 12-point game. So I don't know about that, him being in that third spot. Millsap, he's had some huge games. To me, if you go back, and it looks like either one of 2 things happens. The first game of the series, either he plays a lot of minutes going way back to that first round, he played 29 minutes, had about 24 points, or he does relatively well and he produces. In the last series, he played 23 minutes. In that first game, he had like 35 points. So I think the strategy, particularly for me, is like being a GPP player, that it would be pretty smart to rotate out Millsap and Porter. They're both 9,000, so they're both going to fit into there. very well could see one of those two guys being in that third spot on FanDuel. And then as far as DraftKings is concerned, Millsap's only 5,800, so potential there to really have phenomenal value. Danny Green, been averaging about 19 points. Same thing with Jeremy Grant. They're that 8,500 spot on FanDuel. I guess the thing about him is Green's going out, giving you 26 minutes, and Jeremy Grant is going out and giving you averaging 33 minutes. So that's one thing. They're out there on the floor. I suppose those could be dark horse candidates for that third spot on FanDuel. Grant's 6,400 on DraftKings, so I think there I would probably fade him out of that on DraftKings. If you want to play him on FanDuel. Danny Green's only 4,800, which that's another I guess a decent lower cost option there potentially. Caruso is also 8,500, and like I mentioned, particularly for what happens with Rondo, who knows? But he's been coming in. I mentioned there earlier, 23 minutes, 18 points. Monty Morris, I don't know. This last series, he went from playing 25 minutes, and then when averaging 18 points in the first round, then Gary Harris came back last series, only 16 minutes and about 14 points. So, yeah. And then from here, now this could be interesting, like Howard and McGee. I think that they're going to be playing again, just given the matchup. So those guys, look for them to be relevant again, and they're probably a little bit cheaper than I could see their price tag going up. Howard used to always be around like $9,000 or something like that, and McGee would usually be around $8,000. But Howard right now is $7,500, McGee $7,000, and those guys, especially if one of those guys is going to sit there in this series, end up getting north of 20 points. They can definitely throw up like plus 30 points easily. So those are some guys there, especially compared to a guy like Torrey Craig. He's just kind of falling out of that rotation. Only averaged 18 minutes the last round and about 10 points, whereas first round, 24 minutes and 14 points. Again, with Gary Harris coming back, basically the minutes that between Craig and Monty Morris, basically that's those minutes that Gary Harris picked up. KCP averaging 27 minutes overall in the playoffs, 15 points. So again, he's out there on the floor, I guess. He went from averaging 18 points the last round, just about 12 the round, 18 points the first round, just to 12 points the last round. McGee, here it is, the first round when he played, he only played 13 minutes, but he averaged almost 18 points. That's exactly what I'm speaking to. One of those games, he played 14 minutes, had 28 points. Another game, he played 12 minutes, had 24 points. First game, he played 12 minutes, had 18 points. So again, if given that matchup, if he's out there playing 20 minutes, I could see that, and he probably won't be a ton of people having him in that third spot there on FanDuel as well. Only $2,000 on DraftKings too, so very cheap there. And then you finally have Plumlee, that's at the cheapest spot at $6,000. And, it hasn't happened yet, but he, in my opinion, if there is some foul problems with the Joker, that Plumlee comes in there, he can have that type of potential like McGee on the game, where he could end up being like producing at, like say 1.5 points per minute that he's out there. I guess the idea would be, though, if you were to play him, I probably wouldn't have Jokic be the MVP in those lineups, or maybe even not like the top two spots, maybe not in there at all, with the idea is that, especially because he's the most expensive guy on FanDuel, that he got into foul problem. He just really had a shitty game, underproduced. Plumlee came in, played up more minutes because of that, and thus ended up having a good night. And then the top two spots were dominated between James and Davis. And you could probably still get Murray in there at that third spot, or between those top three spots, rotate those guys out, have Plumlee in there, and then still be able to get some nice guy, like an in-between value guy there too. So another way to maybe look at some of these games, try and make yourself maybe a little bit unique. So, all right, guys, I hope you kick some ass tonight, and I'll keep my fingers crossed for tonight, and I'll report back to you how it goes. All right, peace out, guys. I'll see you later.